Welcome to The Explainer. Pull up a chair, get comfortable, and let's dive right in. Today we're exploring a deeply human, honestly kind of frustrating phenomenon. You know that mysterious gap between knowing exactly what the right thing to do is and, well, actually doing it in our own lives? Yeah, that one. It's a tension that has puzzled philosophers and psychologists for literally centuries. So today we're going to unpack exactly why this happens and, more importantly, how we can actually overcome it.
So let me ask you a question, and I want you to be completely honest with yourself here. Have you ever noticed that when your best friend calls you in the middle of a massive life crisis, you immediately transform into this world-class strategist? I mean, you see the patterns clearly, you know exactly what they should do, and your advice is just flawless. But then, a nearly identical problem lands right in your own lap, and suddenly you're hopelessly stumbling through it, totally paralyzed by indecision. Sound familiar? Well, you're definitely not alone. It happens to absolutely all of us, and there's a very specific reason why.
All right, let's get into Section 1, the Great Advice Paradox.
What we're talking about here is known as the Solomon Paradox. It was identified by psychological researchers Igor Grossman and Ethan Kross. Basically, it's this widespread cognitive bias where we reason so much more wisely about other people's social problems than we do about our own. Think about it. When a friend has a problem, we naturally have this built-in distance. But when the problem is ours, oh man, anxiety, shame, the high personal stakes, they all immediately cloud our judgment. Our vision just narrows. We get so tangled up in the emotional weight of our own situation that our ability to think rationally essentially short-circuits.
Moving right along to Act 1, Historical Context. To really understand this, we need to look back at King Solomon, the third leader of the Jewish kingdom. The guy is legendary. Ancient accounts tell us that when he was offered literally anything in the world, he beautifully, humbly prioritized wisdom. People traveled from the ends of the earth just to get his sage counsel on how to lead. And yet, in his personal life, his decisions were an absolute shambles. We're talking 700 wives of royal birth, 300 concubines, worshiping foreign gods. He let his uncontrolled passions and poor personal choices lead to the eventual downfall of his entire dynasty. It is the ultimate historical irony, right? He could perfectly guide an entire nation, but he couldn't guide himself.
And this brings us to the guiding philosophy of our explainer, captured perfectly by the newsletter's author, Papa. He says, self-awareness and the humility to be self-aware are the only ways to overcome this paradox. That right there is the foundational truth we just have to accept, because without genuine humility, we are pretty much doomed to expertly opine on everyone else's faults while staying completely blind to our own. Humility is the antidote. It's the only thing that cures the ego trapping us in the Solomon Paradox.
Which brings us to Act 2, Psychological Tension. Picture this like a rising tide of complexity. When you're totally immersed in your own life, you are the protagonist. The waters of your own egocentric perspective start rising up, and they're filled with your specific details, your fears, your hopes. And this rising tide literally blinds you to your own biases. It makes it incredibly difficult to zoom out and broaden your reasoning. So instead of actually solving the problem, you often just aggravate your own personal conflicts, simply because you're drowning in your own viewpoint.
Now, the math backing this up is actually fascinating. Look at this number, 0.317. So what does that mean? Well, it isn't just a random stat. It's the positive effect size drawn from a massive meta-analysis. We're talking 20 independent studies, thousands of participants spanning across different cultures. And what this number proves conclusively is that the Solomon Paradox is scientifically real. We actually do reason significantly better and make measurably wiser decisions when we act as bystanders evaluating someone else's problem, rather than as players in our own game. The data proves it. Distance creates clarity.
So, the big question, how do we hack our own psychology to fix this? Well, Grossman provides a heavily data-backed solution, and it's called self-distancing. And it is beautifully simple. Step 1, step back. Step 2, ask yourself about yourself, but do it in the third person. Instead of asking, why am I so upset, you ask, why is he or she upset? Imagine you're advising someone you respect deeply, maybe a family member like Colonel Debs or the late Papa Q Bear. By looking at yourself in the third person, you're effectively tricking your brain into providing that much-needed psychological distance, and that drastically improves your wise reasoning.
Let's dive into Act 3, Daily Connection.
To make all of this really practical for our daily lives, we turn to the ancient Greek philosopher Aristotle. He had this concept called phronesis. It translates to practical wisdom, and honestly, it's the crucial missing link. Phronesis is this metacognitive ability, a kind of meta-virtue that stops us from just freezing up when different values clash in the real world. Think about it. Should you be completely honest right now, or should you be kind? Phronesis is that active daily wisdom that helps you integrate those conflicting virtues and actually act on your moral insight.
Think of phronesis kind of like a master conductor, leading a massive symphony orchestra. You've got all these different instruments playing at once. Your clashing emotions, your logical thoughts, your conflicting choices and virtues. Without a conductor, it's just chaotic noise. But practical wisdom steps right up to the podium. It regulates your emotions and harmonizes them. It turns all that raw, unorganized knowledge into perfectly timed, actionable behavior.
But here's the catch, and we must always remember this vital distinction. Knowing the right path is merely insight. Walking the path, that is action. Simply understanding the psychology of the Solomon paradox does not automatically grant you self-control. True integrity isn't just having the aha moment. True integrity is the exhausting, daily, relentless effort to let truth rule your own heart just as strictly as you would apply it to your neighbors or your friends.
All right, bringing it all together in our final section, synthesis, cultivating humility.
Wisdom requires serious practice. First things first, acknowledge your blind spots. Just accept that you are naturally going to be biased about your own life. Second, practice that third-person self-distancing we talked about. Third, the very next time you give brilliant advice to a friend, pause and turn that exact same advice right back toward yourself. And finally, embrace intellectual humility. Reinforcing Papa's core belief here, true wisdom is a lived art. It takes constant, humble effort to be deeply self-aware and to correct our own course every single day.
As we wrap up, I want to leave you with one lingering thought to chew on. If you gave yourself advice like a caring friend, would you actually have the humility to listen? I really hope this explainer has sparked some curiosity and inspired you to reflect a little more deeply on your own self-awareness. Until next time, keep learning and keep listening to that caring friend within.